speaker who will be performing tonight, who has watched every horror film to date. And he is proud to say, for he knows every single way to dispose of us when the meeting ends. May I please call the man we call Monster because of the products he sells. May I please call upon Toastmasters, CC, Rafiq Ahmed.
I was having a good night's sleep, and just when I thought that I was going to have a really good sleep, a sound, a shuffling, woke me up. I looked at the watch and it was about 3 a.m. I could not forget that time. It was about 3 a.m. I woke up and I noticed at the end of my bed, there she was, standing speechless, motionless. And the only thing that I could remember was her holding on to this dog. I slowly walked up to her to understand what she was up to. I approached her and I held her slowly. And just as I caught hold of her, almost immediately, she ground, and she held on to my arm as tightly as she could and dug her fingernails into my flesh. I could remember her tight grip on my arm and her tight grip on the door. Toastmaster of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, any one of you ever thought that it is really cool to have a twin brother or sister? Well, I've always thought that it was really cool to have a twin. But I never really had a twin brother or sister. I never really had any friends with any twins. I never knew anyone who had twins. And then I came across this young, beautiful lady I got married to who had an identical twins. Now, before we got married, I had seen a lot of pictures with them together, and it was really hard to actually differentiate who was who. But the good thing was, her sister was back home in the Philippines, and she was here with me. Until that day, about a year ago, her sister decided to come here to Bahrain looking for a job. I did all the arrangements, arranged for a job, arranged for the visa requirements, and then she was here at the airport. We went to pick her up. Trust me, I could not believe that she was my wife's sister. She looked exactly like my wife. And to make things more interesting, since she was new here to Bahrain, till she could find a place to stay, she came over and stayed with us. The first 2 days, I was married, so there was no thing to worry about. The first 2 days that she spent with us at our home, most of the time I was confused who was in the toilet, because we had one toilet at home and it was used by her and her sister, by my wife and her sister, and then later by me. I was always confused. Months passed, 2 months, 3 months, we enjoyed her company. She decided to stay at our place permanently, and everything was going absolutely perfect. 6 months later, this lady, completely opposite of my wife, who would talk a lot, laugh a lot, would enjoy the company of people, and who was so lively, on that night, suddenly, at 3 a.m., stood there, speechless, motionless, holding the doll in her hand. When I approached her and she caught hold of my hand, the scream or the ground woke my wife up, and she quickly rushed to understand what was happening. It was 3 a.m. And as she came close to her, almost immediately she let go of me and she got hold of her sister's hair. And she held it so tight and she threw her on the side, she threw her on this side and she kept hold of her hair and she couldn't let go. Hearing the screams and all the commotion happening, my aunt, who was staying next door, quickly rushed in and trying to understand what was the entire confusion all about. She did not understand what was happening, but she knew that right then she had to let her get her sister's hair off her hands. Myself and my aunt tried our best, but the slim, thin, lively lady had the most aggressive behavior with the most amazing strength that I had ever seen. She wouldn't let go. After several attempts of slapping her and literally punching her, she let go. And we moved out of the room, we locked her inside, trying to understand and get a grip of what was happening. I could not think of anything and I said, we have to take her to some place where she can get some help. We quickly rushed her into the hospital with a lot of difficulty. And I got off to the hospital and I went to one of the best hospitals in Bahrain and I saw an on-duty doctor there who was a psychiatrist. She refused to even check her. She said, gentlemen, I cannot even try to check her. It doesn't really look like something which I understand. We need to take her someplace where she can be confined. I rushed her off to Salmania, which is supposed to be the government hospital. They sedated her for 6 hours, and after 6 hours someone came to check on her. And the doctor, after examining her behavior, said, Mr. Rafiq, your sister-in-law is suffering from acute psychosis. I had never heard this term ever in my life before, so I asked him what it was. He said it's a condition where a person completely goes out of their mind due to certain event. May have been a shock, may have been something they heard, something that they could not bear that really turned them off. I had no clue what it was. I had no idea what she had heard. But the doctor said, the human brain is like this electric circuit board where anytime there might be a circuit break and the fuse goes off and you don't know when the fuse might get fixed. They put her into the psychiatric holding unit here in Bahrain in confinement and nobody was allowed to meet her or see her. And after several attempts, I got to meet her on the 3rd day. When I entered the psychiatric clinic, the nurse came to me and she said, Mr. Rafiq, last morning at 3 a.m., my sister-in-law woke up and she came and asked me where she was. She knew who she was, but she did not know where she was. I have no idea whether she's okay or not. Would you like to meet her? I went inside, I met her. She was absolutely fine, as if nothing had happened. And the nurse told me that for 3 days until that morning, she had this doll with her. Until that day, while she was asleep, the cleaner had actually taken it away. And there she was, back to who she was. Ladies and gentlemen, this story is real, but I don't know what had happened. But I'm going to leave this doll right here for you to take it home with you if you dare, and call me back tomorrow to tell me what happened at 3 a.m. Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rafiq.